Can you guys hear me okay?
Unmute there you go. Okay, looks like we have all the council members accounted for, so we will go ahead and call the special meeting of the Nevada City Council to order on Friday, August 28th at 1:00 p.m. We will go ahead and, and we are also streaming on Zoom to allow the public to engage because of COVID-19. So we'll go ahead and do a roll call.
Brian Hansen,
Here.
Barb Mittman,
Here.
Dane Nielsen,
Here.
Jason Sampson,
Here,
Vince,
Here.
Sandy Ward.
Okay,
You care about our video?
item is approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Brian, second by Luke. Any discussion on the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, council vote.
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't load it? Voice vote then.
Hansen,
Yes.
aye. I think.
Aye.
Eric, Mittman,
Aye.
Nielsen,
Aye.
and I heard Sampson earlier.
Okay. So first item on the agenda is resolution number 19, 2020-2021, resolution declaring intent to provide economic development support to development project at 1024 6th Street. So we have some folks involved with the project here to present to us. So whoever's wants to address the council can do so from the microphone, and Karen will show any related video or documents on the screen.
I stand up here.
Yeah, just that way anyone online can hear you.
Wants to listen to me.
Yeah.
I think you guys all got that packet that kind of, it's a very brief overview of kind of what we're looking at for the upstairs of gatherings. I think most everybody knows what we already do at gatherings. It's an event menu and multiple events a year. A catering company. So between the catering company and the event menu, we do about 400 events a year. So just tell you a little bit about us. What we're looking at doing is redoing the upstairs. There's 5,000 square feet of the upstairs of the building, and making it more sort of rental spaces. So it would be more geared toward the corporate sector, and then it would be some co-working spaces, some studio spaces, some smaller meeting rooms, some places to do conferences, projects, and things like that. And what we're looking at, it will also, nothing's been up there for about 40 years, I think, give or take a few years. So all the plumbing's been abandoned, all of the HVAC's been abandoned, there's no water. So it's really starting from scratch, but we feel like we have a really good shell. There's some good structures up there. We're gonna use all the existing rooms. So what you see in this plan pretty much exists. There's in the front of it, currently there's apartments that were put in there at some point that will get torn out. So they've been put in over kind of the original use of the building. So we're going to kind of take it back to the original floor plan as much as we possibly can, utilizing all the existing rooms. So it's kind of where we're at with it. We're in the very beginning stages. Putting together some funding. My husband Seth is the owner of the building, and then I run the company out of the building. So he's my landlord. And that's kind of how we have it all set up. So, so I'm kind of the visionary behind it, but he really is. He's the brains behind it. Work together. And he fixes my mistakes. present that and any help that we can get in this whole process from the town, from you guys, from whatever. This is our goal, is to kind of be that first big project and show people that this can be done and be lucrative and be a viable option for other building owners. So.
Council, any questions for Evie?
Well, if someone can speak about the challenge grant, Henry, you're gonna talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about the challenge.
That's really important to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just have one quick question. I was curious about the fire protection and what your plans were for the upstairs.
Right now, we're open to doing the fire suppression system. We're in those very beginning stages of,
Okay.
Costs and all of those things, but we are open to doing those. So right now, all of our quotes are coming in. It's kind of looking around 450,000. So as we get our quotes in and all of that, we would really like to be that first person to put the sprinkler system in up there, if that's in the cards.
Okay.
So if it's something that we can plan for as we're doing our remodel to do down the road, that's something that we'll definitely explore.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll just have to get together with
Yeah.
Ray and talk about
Yeah.
the scenario and everything.
I visited with him briefly about it, and he's been really supportive and excited about the project. Yeah, I haven't dug super deep into that whole side of it. It just as we're trying to get a few other things off the ground. But,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
we're open.
Is there an elevator as part of the plan?
There is not an elevator. This is a different space than some of the downtown spaces in that it is not, nobody will ever occupy it or be there overnight. So it is not there will be no apartment living upstairs.
I did have one question. Will you guys be doing this regardless whether you get that $75,000?
We really need that start for that. I mean, we really need some grant money. We're very hesitant to put our own money, that much. I think at this point, I mean, maybe down the road, but if we're gonna start it in the next year or two, we would really need that grant money, so.
What kind of interest have you had in renting out the business areas?
A lot of interest. We get requests weekly for smaller groups in smaller settings. And we have hardly even tapped into that corporate market. We do quite a few trainings and things for bigger companies. But for those smaller companies, our place downstairs is just too big.
And one thing with the co-working too that came up during the rec center feasibility study was so many folks in town already are working from home, and we're looking for kind of an out of home environment where they could be around other people and still work. And so that was something that came up in that process. It just wasn't a good fit for that project, but it has been something that we've been talking about even for 5 years. And now with COVID, I think the amount of folks telecommuting in this community are going to significantly increase.
And we've seen a lot of, COVID has affected this project a lot. This was already in my brain and dream a couple of years ago, or even when we first bought the building. But really, when COVID hit, it really solidified that, yeah, what I want to do upstairs is the right thing. On a daily basis, we have 6 to 10 people working over in gatherings right now to just have a different space, a different to have Wi-Fi, to have quiet, all of those things. So we're seeing really an increase of people working from home, of needing a different space, of needing a space to meet people, to have meetings, to conduct calls or whatever they need to do. It's outside the home.
Abby, a along those same lines, do you see some flexibility then with that space? As we've already noted, things changed really quickly in the last few months, so if there were other needs for the space.
We see every single space being extremely versatile. So, for instance, we've got the little space, the library is gonna be used for our clients downstairs as the bridal suite for getting ready for a wedding. So we've kind of, the way we're positioning things, we wanna be able to utilize it, our clients be able to utilize it up there. And then we see the front space and that other big space being able to utilize and be utilized by smaller receptions. We could do dinners, we could do parties. I mean, we could do multiple other things in there. So if it got to the point where, oh, this isn't, it could really be tweaked to kind of mirror what we already do downstairs.
That bridal suite's not gonna be ready by March? I'm kidding, you know I have a wedding at your place in March. That's
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Just
kidding. You know I'm kidding. Yeah, I know.
Really hustling?
I know, no, that's good.
And run a big fast show. But yeah, that's the goal, is
Yeah.
for it to all be there. Any other questions?
Thank you, Abby.
I'll hand it over to Henry, he's got the facts on the grant.
Well, I'm really excited to be here today. It was just a little over a year ago, we were celebrating getting into Main Street, and a lot has happened in that year. So it's exciting to be here to be talking about a project like this. So as everyone kind of covered a little bit, I guess this all came about because of the Iowa Challenge Grant, which is a $75,000 matching grant that is extremely competitive. I included a few photos to Karen of some past projects that have been completed. So this one's actually in Mars, and that's the floor. And what they've done with that project, Mars has been extremely successful with this grant, and has done several projects, and it's amazing to see what has come out of it. There are a few more photos in here, just kind of showcasing what has been done and how many different versatile things have been used with this grant. I guess what was interesting was when you walk downtown and you look around at the stores that are around you and everything, you really come to notice that Arvada has two downtowns. There's the one that you think of, which is right around you, and there's the one that's 15 feet up, the second floor. And that was designed with residential, businesses, entertainment. It was designed to really be a critical part to a successful downtown. And it still is to this day. And upstairs is such a critical part of making a successful and viable downtown. It's probably not the first, when Evie first came to us with this idea, it was the first use that came to mind. You think of, apartments and along that line, but really it's the use that we really need down here. The last few months have really shown us that. We have these individuals that work out of their homes, and normally they would stay in that space, they'd hop on the road, go somewhere else for lunch, or along those lines. But in a setting like this, they're working, staying in that community. They'll grab a coffee at the coffee shop, they'll get breakfast at snack time, then they'll go upstairs in this collaborative space, network, they can get lunch at any of the restaurants downtown. And at the end of the day, they can stop at Ben Franklin's and pick up any goods they need. So it really helps create that ecosystem that is downtown so critical. The other thing that you think about too is in this community, we have so many small businesses. And they're the ones we know about, but they're the ones that are in homes, and out garages. And they need a space that can help them progress to that next level, really become a vibrant small business. And so this gives an advantage on that co-working space. Not only in allowing them to have equipment and the means to help bring it along, but to allow them to network and to meet others who are in the same position as them, really develop those relationships. And, with them being successful, eventually they'll look for a location for their business to go. They'll be used to Arvada in their hometown. this space, it's just been very interesting hearing the idea from Abby. And I think we've all, as we dove into it, we've realized how much of a need there is for it. COVID has really shown us that with the working at home, expanding and growing, really seeming like a future trend. It really sets us apart and shows really what we can do. And so it's pretty exciting to bring that on. Like I said, this grant is extremely competitive. And everyone looks for the way that they can distinguish themselves, really set them apart from the pack. And so the idea in itself really distinguishes and sets us apart. But we're looking for ways to continue to do that and to continue to really set us apart from the pack. So that's where we came to the city for the city support. And so we're really hoping that you all can see this opportunity and what it can really do with that downtown. But we're also hoping that we're here today to address this, but we're also here to address the future and what effect this will have on growth and future opportunities. So we really hope that this is a primer and that this is the first step to really allowing investment and growth in the downtown, really creating incentives in ways that existing businesses can invest in themselves and their businesses and the future businesses that may not be here yet, but are looking to come here, have that incentive to come here. So we're really hoping to be able to develop that and further that and really start to grow and to redevelop and expand our downtown. So I just want to thank you all for having this special meeting today, and I want to thank Abby for putting this idea together and everything she does. But, any questions for you?
Henry, that was great. I would just add one thing, because probably not everybody's aware of the fact that the challenge grants are only available to Main Street Iowa communities. So I think that's a really important point that our council needs to understand that because of Main Street, we're eligible, even though it's a very competitive process, it's limited to just those communities of Palm.
I think somebody brought it up on Monday, and maybe it was answered then, I don't remember. Do we know where this dollar amount, what brought us to this dollar amount specifically?
So the dollar amount was kind of just through conversation. You know, they really, in our previous grant, they really expressed that we needed more financial support, proof of the city support that way. While they appreciated what we had set out on the previous one, they expressed that that was a big issue on our previous application. So that was through conversation, looking at overall cost of the project, looking comparative to other areas. That was just kind of how that number was settled upon. According to town, but that was just a number that we kind of looked at how much the cost of the project would be.
Is that somewhere like the competitive nature of the grant? Is that kind of set it apart in that realm, do you think?
Well, I guess yes and no. So Lamar's is actually committing $37,000 towards their applicant. I know a couple other communities are putting anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 towards it. It's a different spectrum.
Based off the percentage of the total project or something like that?
It just kind of, it depends. There are some towns that do percentages, others just have that set cap. And so someone just put that cap at $20,000. Some like Lamar's $37,000 for this specific. You know, they're very competitive with ours. They've put together some amazing applications in the last few years. Done amazing things with it. That's probably one of the bigger precedents of this.
And Henry, do you know if those other cities are also doing the tax abatement with the financial grant?
I've come across a few that do that pair them up. Some towns do just specifically the tax abatement, some just do specifically the cash incentive. So it really is, I don't know if neighboring communities like Ames, what their program is.
Yeah, so I don't know if any good, but Ames is offering, they have a facade grant, and so our challenge grant this year, the award project had 3 facade grants because they can get 3 separate storefronts. So they've got a $30,000 cash match moving into the project, but no tax incentive on that.
Okay.
30,000 each, John, or 30,000 total? Okay.
So 3 facade grants for total 30,000.
Okay.
So.
So Henry, is this amount, I heard the number 75,000 somewhere. I don't know if Evie said it or we talked about it Monday. Is that what the grant is? Is that like the maximum, or do they ever come in and give 30,000, or is that just a set number?
You can apply for up to 75,000.
Okay,
on this grant.
okay.
Most, of course, do apply for the 75,000. I believe Jefferson applied for a smaller amount, and some others have done it in the past. Other projects that have been used have been.
Okay.
But most do apply for the full amount of 75,000.
Okay.
Well, Evie, Henry, I appreciate your presentation this morning. I think that, we talk about investing in our downtown. We talk about the revitalization. We talk about how important the future of our downtown is to our community as a whole. I think that this, to me, is, you guys have answered a lot of questions. I think, to me, this is a no-brainer. I think this is something we should pursue. I think our return on investment for $10,000 today is something that can, create a lot of momentum going forward for the city of Nevada, for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So I think this is a great idea. Evie, thank you for coming with this idea. Obviously, you have been a huge part of our efforts downtown over these last few years. So I would make the motion to approve Resolution 19.
Second.
A motion by Dane. I think that was Sandy as a second. Andy, second. Discussion.
Jordan, you talked about this coming out of the lot fund. Is there a line item for that in there, or is there something we didn't use or anything like that? Or are we talking about?
Not a specific line item for grants or anything, but we can use that. Have money for that.
Is there a specific thing in there that's, are we taking something away from something else? Or did something, I know we've set aside money for things and then it doesn't end up getting spent later.
For sure, because we don't know what Washington's going to do.
Yes.
But from
Just looking at our budget anyway.
the things we've gotten from the state so far, it looks like we're gonna actually have more than what we budgeted for. So that's encouraging, but no one knows for sure yet.
I just want to make sure we know if all things are equal, or are we taking 10 grand from somewhere else in exchange for this and what it would be?
Yeah, no, we didn't have that 10 grand earmark for anything else. So we're not actually taking it from somewhere else, from another project or anything. We are pulling it out of that lot fund, but some of that money is not spoken for.
Okay. Thank you.
Henry, it's a question I was going to ask you. Dane jumped the gun on me, but that's okay. Do you have any history on the support like Lamar's gave or other communities that to maximize to get the 75,000? Is there any history on like the percentage of commitment from the city? I mean, is Lamar's throwing 25% of the grant amount at them and that's why they're getting them? Are they doing 10%? I mean, do we have any history? I know that's probably not something you dug into every one of those grants, but.
I've looked at several and compared them, and it's a wide spectrum. It really is. It depends on the project. Lamar's, of course, that's a quarter of essentially the matching on the other end. So that does significantly. That really does show how much support is coming in the city. That being said, it really is kind of all over the spectrum on it. Depends on that, the project, and a few other factors can come into it.
Well, and that's because I was going to say, obviously, to me, this is a no-brainer that we support this. My only issue is going to be maybe 10,000 ain't enough. Because I think that we need to slam dunk this first project. It's just me. Because I think that people look at what's going on Main Street and everything that we've got going on with the new Main Street project, the streets, making it look nicer, bringing business, you know, somebody sees, and Evie said it when she was sitting there, that if she's confident she can be successful, obviously they wouldn't be spending close to $500,000 to do it. If we get something like that in there, it's going to look at, we don't need to have, I mean, there's tenants already like John that's going to do some remodel and some living spaces and stuff. And like Evie said, it's not necessarily all about living space. I mean, the Masons are upstairs now. There's a lot of other opportunity to do things. And I think even if we give her 15,000, that's 20% of the 75. That's why I was sitting here doing math on my phone. I wasn't texting. I just think it's a small price to pay to not only to help a good project, but to show our support to the Main Street businesses that, you know, with Main Street, now that we're a Main Street community, you know, I've been telling people that we have all this opportunity now just because we are a Main Street community. And this is a perfect example that this doesn't only help this project, but it says to everybody else that, hey, we're all in here. You know, and if we need to do this to make sure that we help you get a grant, that's why I asked Henry about the percentage, because I was just doing some simple math. You know, it's like 13%, 10,000 up 75. If we went to 15, that's a full 20%. And really, you know, $5,000 isn't that much more money. I know it's 50% more than what we're talking about, but I don't know. I think it'd be worth every penny to really get this. I mean, this is going to be the wheel that gets this whole downtown development. We got to start somewhere. So let's make sure we get going, because it's it would kind of stink if we went backwards, so to speak, on this. You know, I mean, I know it happens, and I know it's a chance for the application, but it wouldn't only stink for Evie because she wants to do this. It would stink for us as a city and a Main Street community that, man, okay, what do we do next? And we know what to do next. We do the same thing on the next one, but I think we should seriously look at doing a little bit more than that 10,000. That's just me.
Ryan, I agree with you actually, and I thought about saying that myself, and I'm glad you did. If we did decide that we had the money to do that and we were okay with that precedent and whatnot, I would certainly be happy to amend my motion. And I think you're completely right. After we missed out on that Catalyst grant, I mean, that was frustrating, obviously. And we have another chance here to, like you said, hopefully make a slam dunk on this. And the path forward gets harder the more we get shut down. Obviously, there's still a chance no matter what, but, you know, we want to get this thing. So, I mean, I'm certainly happy to amend my motion, I guess, to an amount. I mean, Jordan, is the money that, I mean, as long as the money is there and is coming from somewhere that isn't earmarked for something else.
Karen, do we have an extra $5,000?
Not a question.
Yeah, and I know we don't know. We don't know. But really, we can't find $5,000 somewhere in the as large as our budget is. I mean, I've got ideas, but I don't want to throw them out there right now. But we can find 5,000. Luke knows as well as I do, because we're on the budget committee together, that there's $5,000 out there.
The only thing that makes me even remotely hesitant on that is if good things happen and we get more of these show up, and then we multiply this by, you know, hopefully another, you know, half dozen more.
Well, the thing about
how do we address that?
Well, I think that's a discussion we probably need to have.
And that's a good problem to have too. But
I think that's something we need to. You know, I think we get through this one, then I think this winter when we sit down and say, okay.
With the fact that we're also talking about tax abatement, and not everybody's talking about that. So yeah. I think I like the mayor's comment about we're trying to help on the front end, but we're also trying to help with sustainability and a few years after it's complete. Also, remember, this is not going to happen this year. You know, this is,
no.
We're pledging money towards something in the future, which was that
Right, and that's where we can. It might be, you know, and I didn't think of that either, Sandy. That it might be something that we sit down and it's a budget a thing for next year. I mean, we probably aren't writing a check this year, you know. Yeah. So that's why I think we need to get on the front end of it. That's just my opinion. Like I say, you know, Evie might not come. If she gets the grant, it might be, I don't know when they award the grants.
Well,
Spring, summer, fall.
it'll be coming up in November,
Okay.
but if I might offer some perspective too on what other Main Street communities do, and it's just because I've been around Main Street, Iowa, for far longer. Lamar's is on the upper end of the 50% match, so basically you have to have $75,000 grant, you have to have $75,000 to match to it. Lamar's as a community basically pledges half of that match. That's how they arrived at their number. So the 10,000 is 13% of the 75, but if we look at really the two grants that we're trying to line this up for, it's the Catalyst Grant and the Challenge Grant. Catalyst Grant's available to communities across the state of Iowa. Challenge Grant's only available to Main Street communities. And kind of at the bare minimum, 10,000 is a 10% match on the Catalyst Grant if we're swinging at that one. As Henry kind of noted, the one of the major challenges or issues we had with our Catalyst Grant application was that the city commitment wasn't as strong as they were expecting. And part of that's probably our fault for the expectations that we set when we went and did our Main Street, Iowa application. We convened the city council meeting there, and we really set strong expectations that we were all bought in with limitless resources to support the Main Street. And we kind of fell short on that Catalyst application. So, Brian, I appreciate, I think everybody in the room that is working on this project, and Evie in particular, appreciate the consideration for the higher dollar amount, because the stronger that we can come out the gate, the stronger that we can look as a community in supporting these projects, the more likely we are to find that success when it comes to the state application. Lamar's has been tremendously successful, and I point to them, but they're on the ice cream money up there, so it's a little different world. But their success is continuing to be drawn on because of their high level of support from the city to see these projects happen. So.
Well, and that was part of my point was, I don't want to see what happened the last time happen again. And if that means we've got to find a little more money up front, I think we owe it to everything on the downtown. All the work everybody's done and everyone is continuing to do and everyone's going to do. I just think as a city that's a small price to pay to show our support if we need to add to our commitment. So that's just, I wanted to throw it out there.
I think back to the point too about the budget too. I mean, we're talking about 2 grants that you can apply for. I believe it's once a year. Is that correct? So like, if you think the chances of swinging at both and getting both year after year is about 0.
Well,
so, and if we did, that would be, if we got both in one year, that would be a wonderful problem to have, and we would find the money.
Challenge grants, we become less and less eligible on the Catalyst Grant. So if we're successful on this grant, it's a high likelihood that we will not ever be able to receive the Catalyst Grant. It's possible that next year we could swing at it and really make a big deal if we have some unique projects or something like that. But the Catalyst gets more unachievable as we get more success in showcasing that our Main Street can support these things. So you think about the risk that folks like Evie or John with the Catalyst Grant we're talking about putting out there. Evie's putting a big risk out there, kind of betting that businesses are going to be willing to pay her for utilization of that space. Same with John was willing to put a big risk in saying that market rent apartments are going to be successful in our downtown. And that's where the catalyst and some of these catalytic efforts are taking place. But the hope is that we get to a point where, even if we're not successful with the Challenge Grant, I think was it Jason brought up the question of would Evie do this without the grant? Well, at this point, it's still very risky, but the hope is that we start to get to the point where, we want to swing at the Challenge Grant every year, but if we don't get it, we want to still see activity happening because our downtown's a successful place and people want to be here and spend their dollars here and redevelop down here regardless of if they've got additional assistance to it.
I think that's a good point. I think long-term, we all want to go back to where we have regular grants available like we used to have. And I think that's a separate budgetary discussion than having a local match for the larger grants. And one thing that I know they liked on the other one, I'll muddy the water more, was the service hours and in-kind support from the city. Is that something that should be added to this one as well? I mean, how big of a deal was that?
They did specifically address it, specifically for the creativity of it. They thought it was an interesting contribution. That was listed specifically, but they did find that interesting contribution. So,
I don't know if we have that language, but it was waiving fees and allowing staff to provide in-kind labor to go towards the wellness program service hours.
Volunteerism. Yeah.
And like building.
I don't know if we wanted to
building
add
permits,
that exact language
like
from
that.
the Catalyst grant into this and amend that in.
I would like to do that. I think that is another thing that we can add. You know, we're kind of swinging for the fences here, and I think that's a good idea to add that language.
Are the Catalyst and Challenge grants the only two through Main Street, or are there others options there too?
Two main ones that they put out there. There's smaller programs, and like Open for Business, and a few other events like that. These are the main grants in a way.
When it comes to infrastructure.
Yeah, when it comes to infrastructure.
Well, then there's historical grants and other places other trees to mark up as well.
Well, can I amend my motion to change the dollar amount to $15,000 and add in a point about the language about volunteer hours from staff from what we had in the Catalyst grant?
And also the in-kind support with the fees.
And the inside, yes, all of that. Yes, the in-kind support with the fees as well.
Second that amended motion.
Okay, so the motioner and the second both, we'll consider that friendly.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion about where we are now? Okay. Seeing none, so we will go ahead and call for the vote.
Nielsen,
Aye.
Eric, Hanson,
Aye.
Mittman,
Aye.
Sampson,
Aye.
Spence,
Aye.
Okay, then that carries. So congratulations, and appreciate the vision of Evie and the vision of Main Street. I know I've told Evie the story before that when Julianne's left, I heard there was an event space coming in there. I thought it was the dumbest idea ever, and I've never been more proud to be wrong in my life because she's an incredible asset to our downtown, and she definitely has the vision that I was lacking at the time. So appreciate everything you do, and I'm excited for the future. I think hopefully we'll have other businesses following, and that would be a good problem that I would invite.
Challenge the challenge, right?
Right.
Well, I think we really need to get our heads together and do some research to find out how other communities can make a reliable pot of dollars available, and what makes it a difference to set us apart.
And I think that'll be a discussion we'll have in the budget committee here this fall, and at least come up with something for next year and hopefully grow it as our ability to grow that pot grows. But so with that, we will go ahead and move on to the next point here, which is resolution number 2020-2021, resolution accepting permanent easement for a public storm sewer easement for Central Business District project. And we'll have Sean give us some background.
Well, yeah.
Brian, is that mic on over there?
Mine?
No, the public one. It just wasn't. Okay, because when Henry was up there, I didn't see my little Zoom gauge moving, so I want to make sure it's on.
You all got to go back and say it all again.
The Sampsons at their hotel have had a various series of concerns that we've addressed throughout the project. And their current one is that they are getting some water into their sub basement. They have a regular basement, then they have a basement down probably about 6 feet below that that has their boiler system and things like that in it. They've had water in there before. They've had issues with that before the construction started. And those issues are continuing. So we have come up with I've come up with a solution to, and their main concern is that their roof drains they're having problems with their roof drains. They've always had those problems. So what we have done is come up with a solution to alleviate that problem. We have added storm sewer into the alley. Our proposal would be to run that storm sewer line off of the line out in the alley. It has to go across Don Jules' property. We'll run that into the Sampson's property, and then that will be available for them to run their roof drains into at some point in time. Their concerns are, there's some talk about, like, they have some concerns with our construction, that we might have done something. I'm almost positive we didn't. It's hard to prove a negative. So instead of arguing in circles, we're offering this solution to them to, I guess, to answer their concerns. And that's what we've done here. We just got this back from Don. I gave it to him on Tuesday, and he just got it back to us this morning. So our attorney hasn't had a time to look over it. So I guess I'm kind of thinking that we should probably wait and let her look over his changes to that. He has crossed out number 5, the liability. He has a number 10 to this, the addendum. That's something we offer to do anyway, as something, if he allows us to have an easement and put a storm sewer across there, we're going to hook up his roof drains. It's better for everybody when there's a big rain. It washes, since his lot is gravel, it'll wash gravel into our new alley. With the roof drains, would wash gravel into the new alley. And then also it helps him out because in the wintertime, when the snow melts and it runs down out of the ground and then freezes, gets a little bit of the ice out of his way too. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. And it does answer their concerns. It might not be in the way that the Sampsons would like it to be, but it does answer it in a way that's cost effective for both the city and Roger. So I guess I'd like to say that we'd not take action on this until the 14th, so our attorney will have an opportunity to take a look at it.
Sounds good. So with that, I don't think we need a motion at all. We'll just leave it.
Just that's obviously slows down the paving of that alley behind.
That alley, yep.
So,
Yep. They've still got a lot of paving left to do. So
okay.
it's
So we're
not going
not
to
stopping
interfere
everything.
with no, we won't be standing around waiting on it. The only thing will be that On Track will have to mow back in to do that, but we've talked about it and they're okay with doing that. Yeah.
Anything else on this one then? Okay. and with
Move to
that-
adjourn.
Okay. Motion by Brian to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Dane. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Please say nay. Okay, thanks for your time, everyone, and good luck on that grant.